For 310 days, cosmonaut Sergei Krikalev was marooned in space. As the Soviet Union and the communist system unraveled 300 miles below him, Krikalev remained exiled in orbit, stranded by the tumultuous events on Earth, left behind as the last Soviet citizen. His system unraveled 300 miles below him. Krikalev remained exiled in orbit. His system unraveled 300 miles below him. His system unraveled 300 miles below him. His system unraveled 300 miles below him. 300 miles below him.
What's going on, everybody? I went ahead and put together a little montage here from a documentary I found recently called The Last Soviet. It's kind of one of those rare gems you come across that has a whole bunch of footage and kind of angles on a topic that I hadn't found before. And in this case, it's ostensibly about this astronaut guy who was the last Soviet on the Mir space station when the Soviet Union fell and all that, but then it goes back and covers all the history of the Soviet space program with Sputnik and Gagarin. And so it's kind of one of those fascinating pieces, for fake space nerds like myself. And so if you're a fake space nerd, especially if you're interested in things like just the whole phenomenon of nationalistic propaganda as it relates to the space race, quote unquote, and even how, in this case, tying back to Russian cosmism, and there's lots of great, Soviet cosmist art that I hadn't seen before, and the lyrics in some of these, songs that were written at the time. I mean, it's pretty amazing, how blatantly, it is absolutely religious. But then you got lots of just fun space fakery kinds of things to look at and ponder. And, of course, that's a big thing for some people to get around, the idea that not just the United States would have had to fake the moon landings and everything, but that the Soviet Union was with their dogs in space and the first man in space, their first spacewalk in 67, I think it was, 65. It's just so terribly hokey. But yeah, good stuff. If you just want something interesting to watch and to have something to grab a bowl of popcorn for, I think a lot of you guys might enjoy it, because I sure did. Especially the whole progression of the narrative, right? The narrative on both sides of the Iron Curtain kind of thing, and how there's differences and there's similarities, and how in both cases it was this massive, jubilant, this changes everything kind of paradigm shift, endeavor. But then everyone kind of loses interest, not just in America after the moon landing supposedly, but in Russia too, where then suddenly it became all about the space stations. It was all about going to the moon and the planets and the stars, and then it just became about guys in jumpsuits floating around in tin cans. But then, yeah, at the end of the day, it's all propaganda, and you can have a communist spin or a capitalist spin, or like the Apollo-Soyuz mission, which I believe was in like 73 or 75, not long after the last moon landing. The Apollo spacecraft and the Soyuz spacecraft were docking in orbit, and it was all about international cooperation. And ever since, we've been, since they retired the space shuttle, we've been using Russian rockets to take people up to the ISS and everything else. So you can't really study the whole topic of the space hoax without looking at the whole Soviet era, and I find it fascinating, like I said, with this cosmist underpinning, especially in atheistic communist Russia. Like this was the state religion. It was this transhumanist, cosmist colonization of the galaxy kind of idea, and they were leading the way. And then, just like with America, when we went to the moon and we were going to have moon bases and everything, they put a man in space and then they just stopped, right? It's like, yeah, because the special effects reached their peak for the different sides, and that's what it is. But good stuff, and definitely recommend checking it out if you're inclined to do so. It's a lot of fun.
Good luck.
Слышишь меня?